welcome to another episode of Subject. My name's Chris. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host Mike.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Mike, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, hasn't it?
It's been pretty hectic, that's for sure.
Holy crap!
It's hard to put into words, really, what's been happening around the world.
Yes,
I guess in the last.
It is. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening around the world.
Yeah.
It's not only just obviously in America with all the shit going down
Yeah,
there,
with
with
all
the
the-
massive protests and riots and all that sort of stuff happening, sending shockwaves all over the world.
Yeah,
apparently.
all around Europe, Asia. But actually, I haven't heard much
Everywhere.
around Asia, to be honest.
No, me neither, actually.
But
I think
mostly Europe,
but
Australia.
I'm pretty sure the Hong Kong riots are still going on, so
Yeah.
they're still doing their thing over there.
Yeah. Are they?
I have no idea. Google it.
What's happening? What's happening in
What's
Asia?
happening over in Asia?
I haven't
Are they
heard
just
much what's
dying
happening over there.
from COVID, from sore throat disease?
Asia.
What is
Oh
happening
no,
in
not
the
the
world?
band. Come on. I don't know. Hey, that doesn't. After a quick little search here, I'm not seeing much that's happening at the moment.
Oh, there you go. Asia's been pretty quiet then.
Apparently, they're starting to look into opening up flights again. If you're
nice.
interested in going to Asia for a holiday.
I know the
very
Japanese
nice.
government were wanting to give tourists an incentive of coming into the country, so they were
they're
going to
offering
pay,
to pay for like half the flights or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which would
Which
be
is
sick.
good.
Definitely worth it. Japan is a beautiful country,
Oh,
as
Japan's
you
amazing.
know very well,
Japan is easily one of the best countries on the world.
on Earth. In the world?
On the world. They're honest. They're in Earth. they're in the planet.
Fair enough.
Ooh. Some breaking news from China.
Oh gosh,
Oh.
what's this?
I don't
Breaking news as
Oh,
of we should say,
CNN though.
the
Blah.
11th.
CNN. No.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe it.
Never mind.
I'm not going to look it up.
That's-
But okay, so we want to start off by talking about the riots and protesting that's happening in America.
yeah.
We did touch on it briefly on our last episode, but as
did.
things have progressed and escalated, I feel like it's still a topic that should be spoken about. And people
It's-
should be talking about it.
It's still a developing story.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And I think last week we recorded it a couple of days after George Floyd had passed.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have the whole story, and we didn't really know everything that was going on.
Yeah.
But we wanted to obviously share.
Yeah, they hadn't
Share
done
our
the
opinions.
autopsy by the time that we had recorded.
Yes,
Which
but
now proves that he did die of asphyxiation. And
Yeah, he did.
He did suffocate to death.
Yeah. And
So
it was so it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was killed by the officer.
by the officer, by
responsible.
all of the officers,
By all the
really.
officers.
If you think about
essentially.
it, they all
Well,
had a part.
All the officers were complicit.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think anyone's in denial
No.
about that. I think everybody really knows that they're responsible, and it's them that was doing it.
And now that he's moved from what was it, category 3 to 2 now.
It was third degree murder, and it's
second-degree
moved up
murder
to
now.
second degree murder,
Yeah.
which means a longer sentence for him if they can
If
find
they can
that
find
they had
some kind of intent
Yeah.
to kill, yeah. So I don't know if they will find any real evidence to show that there was
I mean,
real
there
intent.
has been CCTV footage released that was independent from the whatever was going on, and it should also be mentioned that George Floyd died because of a suspected fraudulent $20 note,
Yeah.
which is
Or
kind of crap. Somebody
fake
dies over a
$20.
$20 note that could be real, could be fake.
Yeah, and like there was no evidence that supported the fact that he knew it was counterfeit or that he had
Exactly.
counterfeited it himself.
Yeah. So, and the CCTV footage that was released from, I think it was the grocery store or something that he used the counterfeit note on
Yeah.
to try and buy something, said that he wasn't resisting even when he came out in cuffs or when the officers had him restrained without cuffs. So, I mean, I think they might find intent because of all of the surrounding evidence before the fact, and also what happened during. Obviously, when he was kneeling on George, he threatened to pepper spray anyone that came near him.
Yeah.
To try and remove him from.
But that's not necessarily meaning that he was intentionally trying to murder this person.
That's true.
That, pepper spraying people, threatening to pepper spray people who are, approaching the officer while detaining somebody, quote unquote, or whatever the hell he thought he was doing.
Yeah.
That's not saying that I'm gonna keep you awake so I can murder this guy. That's more protection against the crowd, because there was quite a few people around them.
There were quite a few people, but there was a lot of people were filming it.
Oh yeah. And
so
as soon as they all started getting riled up when he was saying the words can't breathe and all that. Obviously, that would have made things a little bit more hostile around there for good reason. Obviously, for good reason. Like there's no excuse that those people had to not say something.
Exactly, and there was no excuse for the officers to have not done anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for restraining the crowd.
Which is great why they're all in prison now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what happens to cops in prison?
Yeah, well, I doubt they'll be going to a real prison, you know what I mean? I think they'll be singled out away from all the other prisoners and be kept relatively safe in the system.
Probably because they're so at risk.
Yeah, they are. Like, really, they are.
Yeah.
And especially if they go to a prison in, like, Minneapolis or something, and if they
go to, like, a local prison.
In a prison where a majority of them happen to be of African American, they're not getting out of there alive.
No, they're not. Someone's going to come in, shank them somewhere.
Shank them, yeah.
It's going to happen.
So,
and for the most part, I want to say that I feel bad for them because I can understand what kind of fear that would put you into.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you guys kind of deserved it.
I think they deserve to go to prison, but I don't think they deserve to be sentenced to death in the sense of being put in a prison where more likely they're going to be murdered.
Exactly. I'd definitely send them to prison. Probably don't send them to a prison where they can, get murdered and not serve their full term in prison.
Or at least serve their full term in like a solitary ward or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the sense where it's like they're not stuck in a room for 20 years, but they're, restricted to a certain area that they can't.
They're away from the general population.
Of the prison, yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably what has happened already.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
We're just speculating here.
I don't really know exactly what they're doing with these cops, but other than going to prison.
I want them to go to prison, and I don't care about them after that.
Yeah.
Just stay there.
But it looks like Minneapolis is thinking about disbanding the current police force.
I did hear that, and they were wanting to do like a protection system for everybody, where there's, I think, more filters that you have to join.
Yeah.
So then it becomes harder and harder for people to disobey protocol and do things like what happened.
Well, what was it, like a few years ago, I saw a video of a police training exercise from police all around the world. And it was a way to see how the different police from the different countries respond to different situations, essentially. So they did one scenario, it was Australian police, did one scenario where the assailant had, I think it was like a machete or something like that.
Yeah.
And there were 4 police officers, and it was basically, how are they going to detain this guy, get the knife off him, blah, blah, blah. And they did it pretty, coordinated. They did it very well. They didn't draw any firearms on the guy. They didn't, use any...
escalate the situation.
Yeah, they didn't use any unnecessary force.
Yeah.
They detained him, through the exercise, and they did it. Then there was an American police commissioner, and he seemed very baffled as to why we wouldn't just pull out our guns and shoot the guy.
Yeah.
Because in America, it seems to be the best solution is just pull out your gun, shoot him, and then if he's still alive, then okay, cool, we can now take him back to the police station. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There seems to be the last resort, which should be the firearm. It seems to be their first resort.
The statistics that I saw on, I think you sent them to me actually, was the amount of hours that police go into firearms training as opposed to like de-escalating a situation. In America, at least, police trainees spend, I think it's close to 1,000 hours on firearms training and accuracy and all that sort of stuff, and tactical training, but they spend 100 hours on de-escalation, which is a really worrying number for me, because they spend 10 times the amount of time, energy, and resources on teaching the police to use their weapon, instead of teaching them like unarmed combat, or how to distance yourself from somebody so that you can access your firearm, or doing like stuff before drawing your firearm.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, like I've seen videos on like social media and all that, basically showing that police will react very quickly withdrawing their firearm before reacting to, either take a step back from a situation, or, even advance on somebody physically to detain them. Instead, it's, I'm going to pull my gun and see what happens. And hopefully the threat of my gun in their face is going to get them to calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? Yeah. That doesn't do anything. If someone pulls a gun on me, I'm either going to shit my pants and like not move, or I'm going to freak the fuck out and run away. You know what I mean?
And then they're going to
shoot me. Because
they haven't been taught how to de-escalate a situation properly.
I mean, I saw a video of a car chase that was happening. Two cops were chasing this one car. The guy pulls over. He quickly gets out to try and, obviously make a getaway on foot. Cop pulls up behind the car that has been pulled over in his car, just pulls his gun straight up and starts firing through the windscreen at the guy that's running away. Like, you're in a car, dude. Chase him in your car.
Yeah,
don't
or
run
even
him over.
Get out and get your mates to tackle him or something.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's now a foot chase.
Yeah. Don't just pull your gun. Oh, he's running. Quick, pull my gun, and I'm going to shoot him. And they fucking shot him like 100 meters down, and he died. All over what? Because he was trying to get away. It doesn't. Yeah. The need to actually subdue people is all. I think it just. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to put into words. It's just the level that you must have to shoot first and ask questions later is just subpar. There's no excuse for it.
Well, the thing is, I think the thing that I find most worrying is that America is so pro-guns, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, because both points can be argued verifiably, in my opinion. So I'm staying out of that argument. You do you.
Okay. Yeah.
But right, so police officers in America are usually armed with their pistol on their hip.
Yep.
And in their patrol car, they might have a shotgun or a semi-automatic rifle or something of a higher caliber.
Yeah.
To deal with another situation. So there's 3 guns or 4 guns in a patrol car at any point in time in the US, and they have thousands of hours training to use these weapons, but only a couple hundred hours, trying to subdue people without the use of weapons, or trying to do it without excess force.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, police officers that are doing street patrols don't carry a gun at all. They're not allowed to carry guns. They have their baton, and they have a nightstick, and their cuffs and whatever else they need on their belts. And they actually have to call in a special unit of police to come in, and they have the firearms and they have the training to use them. And British officers are taught to talk somebody down from a situation.
Yeah.
So they're trained more in conflict resolution and calming a suspect down and coaxing them back.
It's kind of like the same in Japan,
Yeah.
In Japan, the police that I saw there, hardly any of them were carrying firearms. They were carrying fucking big sticks, you know what I mean? Like, I think they call them Joes. But, I saw a few people get pulled over in Japan, running red lights. Police will chase them. But it's so respectful, the people in the car will come, get out of their car, meet the police halfway, show respect, And, everyone literally walks away happy. Like, I see the people getting tickets and they're like bowing, yeah, thank you, bye. You know what I mean? But here, it's in Australia, it's a little bit different. If you're not allowed to leave your car, you basically,
you got to
turn off everything, sit there,
down.
show where your hands are, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's for their safety as well. It's for your own safety.
Yeah, and I get the whole safety thing. And to the Japanese credit, I think that the person getting out of the vehicle, with the vehicle obviously not running, they get out, they're shown that they're not carrying anything.
Yeah, well, most of them, like, it's illegal to own guns in Japan, you know what I mean? It's the same here in Australia.
Yeah, it's illegal to own a firearm here unless you have the proper license.
Exactly.
And you have a reason to use it.
What do you...
And even
what
then,
can
it's
you
really
even
restricted.
Get? It's so restricted here, you can get air rifles.
You can get a 22.
22.
But that's a bolt action, generally.
Yeah, you can't have anything like automatic.
You can't have semi-automatic or automatic weapons.
Yeah, it has to be single fire, like reloadable kind of bullshit, which makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense because obviously
we had
a mass shooting in Tasmania in the 90s.
Yeah, it was
Port Arthur, yeah. And John Howard, our Prime Minister at the time, just did a blanket ban on guns.
Yeah, straight up. You had to recall. That's it. They took all the guns.
They just confiscated all the guns. I think they paid people to come and bring their guns in.
Yeah.
Which is more of an incentive than just taking people's guns away. Like, hey, we'll buy these off you.
And since then we haven't had a mass shooting.
No.
Which is, it shows that it does work.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
There was an incident not too long ago where a man was running through a shopping center with a knife stabbing people. And he got shot by police. I think got shot like 3 or 4 times, and he died. But see, that to me is understandably okay to a point. Like I say okay.
I mean, if he was
a word,
if he was running at you with that knife, and you know that he's already stabbed 3 or 4 people, you know he's going to stab you.
Yeah.
You've got to defend yourself somehow. And you don't want that knife getting anywhere fucking near you.
Yeah. So your only option is to either fire or run away.
Yeah, and you can't run away because you've got to protect people.
Your job is there to protect people, exactly. So, I mean, like, he took, I think it was like 4 body shots, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in these situations, the first shot should be to, like, the knee or to the leg. It's harder to
disable
the
person.
Disable, exactly. It's harder to hit somebody in the legs. But at the same time, I feel like your first shot should be there. And then if you miss it, then obviously go for whatever part you can hit, you know what I mean? Because, a body shot may stop some people, but it's not going to stop everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But that's probably why he took 3 or 4 of the body shots.
He was a pretty burly dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tradie, like he was a tough guy.
And see, that is the kind of situation where I understand the police's reaction to draw their weapons and fire on someone.
Yeah. Because
they are already armed with a weapon. They have already harmed other people and are probably going to harm more people. Like,
they've tried to murder people, you know what I mean? Like, that, like, I mean, a life for a life isn't really a way to look at it, but
no, it's
in
not.
the sense that, somebody who, isn't really going to come back for it, or, after stabbing maybe 4 or 5 people who then goes to prison, he's going to be there for a long time.
Exactly.
So but anyway, so, like, going back to all the riots and the protesting in America at the moment, I've heard, on the media that we see, it's mostly broadcast the bad side of it, right? What we see is the worst of these protests.
We mostly see all the building burnings, the destruction of police property, all the really violent
I mean,
encounters.
I've seen videos of police. It's hard to say what's really happened because you don't know what's happened prior to the video.
Prior to somebody turning on their camera and hitting record, you don't know the context.
You don't know what's happening. All I've seen in a lot of these is just police charging out at people and literally beating them. I saw one guy who was running away from the cops, and this one cop just chased him, tackled him, and just started punching him on the ground. How does that stop?
I can't justify that in any situation.
Anything, you know what I mean? Like, if anything, that's just escalating it.
Yeah, that's not.
And now that America has basically declared martial law,
essentially,
it's like.
I would also like to point out that in last week's episode we did say that it was going to escalate.
Oh, yeah.
We called it.
We knew it was going to escalate.
We knew it was going to escalate. Now it's probably going to escalate further now that
Yeah.
each side is sort of just escalating on each other.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the protesters, for the most part, are peaceful.
Yeah.
And there was a video I think you sent me, because you've been sending me a lot of stuff that's been happening.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Stuff.
Because you sent me a lot of good stuff. And I think it was in that like one massive long, it was like a 25-minute video where somebody was turning violent at a peaceful protest, and they immediately got called out for it and the organizers said, take this man away. We're not doing it like that here. Get him away from this protest because that's not us.
I saw a video of these guys trying to loot this, I think it was like a jewelry store or something. And this one girl stood between them and the door and the glass, trying to stop them from looting and breaking in. And these guys were, pushing her out of the way. Putting yourself into that kind of situation is very dangerous, especially for, a young lady and, for, bigger dudes, to step in between them and what they want,
Yeah, exactly.
Enough for them to get violent over, So she's very brave. But there are a lot of people who are trying to, stop the violence, which is amazing. Those people, honestly.
And I mean, everybody has been quoting a Martin Luther King Jr. quote.
Yeah.
Violence does not put out violence. You can't chase away darkness with more darkness. Only light can do that. So it's a really good quote, and it's really poignant in this scenario, because we have people that are turning to violence because they don't know how else to express themselves, when they're actually making things worse by resorting to this.
Yeah.
And I know that's it can be considered pretty shallow coming from us, because we are both quite well off in the grand scheme of things. Like, we both have roofs over our heads, we have vehicles, we have stuff that works,
Debt.
Debt, but we live comfortably in debt.
I live relatively comfortable in debt. That doesn't mean that,
No, but in the grand scheme of things, we have.
I mean, I'm relatively secure right now. Yes, of course.
So it can sound like kind of like preachy coming from where we are, but like at the same time, there were peaceful protests all over the country here just over the weekend.
Yeah, where a lot of people end up getting fined over.
Yeah, which I don't understand.
I understand. I agree with it because, one, the law is the law, and when things start, like, I understand why the protesting happened. I support the protesting. I also support the law to a degree.
Yeah, it's hard
because if you're willing to say no, the law is wrong here, it's okay for us to do this, then what's that to stop other people from saying to other laws that, you know what I mean? It's
that's the whole point. It's
the start of the spiral.
That's the whole point of democracy, is that you can say, no, this law is wrong, we don't agree to this law, and then go and protest about it.
Us, like, say, the few thousand people, or even then, the maybe few hundred people that went to, say, the protest in Brisbane. I'm not sure exactly how many people went.
There was a few thousand there in Brisbane.
That small percentage of the majority of the country, you know what I mean? They don't have a say. The small, the minority, like, we all agree, but I don't agree to the point where we should start changing laws just because that's the descent into anarchy. As soon as you stop caring about the law, and then you start thinking that fines are, you give me a fine because you said I wasn't allowed to go out here. Well, fuck you, man. I'm doing what I want. I support this.
Like, I understand the whole, like, you should maintain the social distancing thing and all that sort of stuff. That I agree with. What I don't agree with is the banning of the protesting and saying, no, the protesting is the wrong thing to do, because
I believe the protesting should happen.
Yeah.
I'm 100% for it. I'm just not happy that people are annoyed that they're getting fined for it, because...
Are they getting... Okay, we got to clear this up. Are they getting fined for not socially distancing?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not getting fined for the protest itself?
No, because you're allowed to protest for now. until Scott Morrison changes that bill.
Well, he's tried to put it in a couple of times and it's been bounced back. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But you never know.
The protesting, that's fine. But it's the fact that if one person had COVID, right, in that 1,000 group, and then spread it, then it just spirals it. And
I get where you're coming from now.
We go back into lockdown, and then everyone loses their jobs again. And then, you know what I mean? It's these small things that people aren't thinking about.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from now, and I agree with that point that you made, because that's a sensible point. And I know that we're probably going to have to expect a second wave of really sore throat virus.
It's going to happen. COVID's not gone. Just because the media has changed its attention to the riots and everything in America, it doesn't mean that COVID has disappeared from the world.
No, there are trials being done on a vaccine.
Yeah, but even then, the vaccine
those isn't. Trials.
They've calculated that it's going to take years, if that. If we're going to come up with a vaccine,
it'll
or a cure
always
for
take years to develop a vaccine and to develop immunity to anything.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in the next couple months. No way.
Definitely not. And as much as we can do things to prevent it, we should also keep in mind that this is a point in time where, when people are at home and they're not sort of going out and doing things as much, it's a very vulnerable time for people, because they can't gather in groups and protest certain things like the Black Lives Matter movement, or like the union busting bills, which we had protests about, and all that sort of stuff. Like, to be able to protest is a democratic right of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a way that the people get heard. Yes, it might be a minority of them, but it's a big showing in a small area. So we had a couple thousand people show up in Brisbane to protest. There were also huge protests in Melbourne and in Sydney on those same days. I know there were protests in Auckland, in New Zealand, and probably in Christchurch as well, where thousands of people showed up for that, and I'm all for that. We also have to consider the infection rate as well, because this dirty sore throat virus is very potent.
Yeah, well,
just because it is quite new to us, this strain at least.
Yeah, it's not something that should be overlooked, because that's what I feel like people are doing now. People are thinking that, okay, restrictions are easing. Oh, this obviously means that COVID is gone now, so I'm gonna go out, live my life the way I used to. I want to go hang out with 50 people. I'm going to go to crowded areas where there are hundreds of people. These ideals that people have right now it's just insane.
And
I still keep my 1.5 meter from everybody. I don't go near people. I was on a set the other day, right? These guys, look, with all the restrictions that's happening with COVID right now, to be able to film is intense. Like, you have to have all these crazy restrictions.
Well, to be able to work anywhere, you've got crazy amounts of restrictions. So it's not just in the film industry.
Any real professional area.
Yeah.
And so on this set, like, as soon as I got on there, everyone wanted to like shake hands. Everyone wanted to, be hella friendly. Like, I'm all down for being friendly. Don't shake my hand though, man. I don't know you. I don't know where you've been. You could be infected for all I know. Keep away from me. But it's this mentality that people have right now that, oh, we can go outside, everything's cool, forget about it.
Yeah, I think people are going towards it not being a problem anymore, but it obviously still is.
Yeah,
it is still
a huge
takes problem.
One person to have it and then connect to the next person. The domino effect is all it takes.
Exactly. And for the time being, Australia has recorded 0 new cases of COVID-19 as of time of recording.
Yeah, so it wasn't too long ago, though, that Victoria had a few.
That's true.
That was like last week.
Yeah, it was like last week, late. I think it was like Friday or something.
Yeah, they had like 11 new cases. Like, it's not much.
Yeah. It's not much, but it is
still there.
It is.
And Australia has a pretty low population considered to a lot of other countries.
Yeah, I mean, our population density is lower than a lot of other first world countries. Yeah. In the center of the city though, it's a different story. Obviously, taking into account the whole country.
Yeah.
Because most of it, the inside of Australia is fucking just desert.
Yeah, we all live to the coast,
we all live
essentially.
80. I think it's 85% of the population live. I think it's 100 k's or less from the coast.
Yeah.
So we're obviously just taking into account averages when people say, "Oh, Australia's population density is quite low," because they're taking into account the whole country.
Yeah, the whole country is the biggest island in the world. It's the largest
that's
island
true.
in the world.
But Sydney is one of the most populated cities in the world.
Yeah.
So you can't say that Australia doesn't have a pretty dense population, because in some places it is very dense.
Well, I mean, you can say that about any country, you know what
That's
I mean?
true.
Cities will obviously have more dense population than, the outer towns, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm saying, oh, there's no one in the outback. Okay, Australia has a zero population, you know what I mean? No one lives in Australia. No one lives in the outback.
There's nobody around here for 100 k's. There's nobody here.
But it's like, yeah, it's working in hospitality. You see a lot of customers that come in, and in Australia right now, for the whole social tracking thing, we need to take information from any customer that sits down. You gotta take their full name, their contact information. Now it's an email address. Before it was a home address.
Ooh. We
had to actually take their, exactly where they lived, and people just weren't happy about it. Some people were definitely understanding, blah blah blah. It's all confidential, obviously, but a lot of people, I had one guy who came in and he refused to give us his name. And I was like, sir, obviously we need your name. It's the law. If you want to sit in, I need your name. So, he was like, fine, my name's John Smith. I'm like, okay, sir, I need your real name. And he was like, no, John Smith. And I was like, sir, come on, that's not your name. And he's like, you want to ID me? I was like, yeah, show me your ID. And then he got hella shitty and pissed off, and he fucked off. And he wouldn't show me his ID. And I was like, yeah, bye. Okay. It's the law, People are losing their shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, and to those people, please just fucking stop.
Calm down. These hospitality workers and retail workers, they're just doing their jobs, If you don't give up your information, then just leave. Don't get angry, because it's your choice.
Exactly. And I think most people working at this sort of time know that it's a lot more risky to be at work. And look, you take the risks and you sort of deal with the consequences of those risks as they come, but you obviously don't want to take unnecessary risks.
Yeah.
You want to minimize the possibility of you catching the very sore throat disease, because obviously you don't fucking want it.
Yeah, well, so you don't want to spread it to people who can't, who can't survive it, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to keep it away from elderly and, immune deficient people who don't have immune systems.
Just so happens that where we both work, there just so happens to be a lot of retirees coming up.
Yeah, the amount of elderly that come out, it's crazy. These are the people who we all went into lockdown for, and they're the first ones out and about doing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm all for just doing whatever, but at the same time, you got to look out for yourself. If you think you had a good run and you're just like, yeah, whatever, then okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's been a good 80 years. I'm gonna head out now, see what happens.
I'm gonna head out and try to see if I catch very sore throat disease.
I wanted to so there was a press conference by the police over in America, and they wanted to talk about how the people see the police and how their response to all these accusations are. I'll play a little bit for you guys right now, and just have a listen.
All right.
We all read in the papers that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Meara. I'm the president of the New York State Association of PBAs. And I just want to talk to you, the press, and I want to talk to the police officers. 375 million interactions with the public every year. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive responses. Overwhelmingly positive responses. But I read in the papers all week, we all read in the papers, that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs. And start treating us with some respect.
I mean, there's a lot
What do
you
you
can
feel
take
about
away
that?
from that. And understand 375 million interactions with the public over a course of a year is a lot of interactions,
That's a lot.
and it's good that it's overwhelmingly positive interactions. But at the same time, saying that someone has no right to be concerned for their kid's safety.
Oh, no,
is-
I don't think that's what they're saying. It's more people being concerned for their kids' safety in terms of them being killed by police on their way home from school, you know.
Yeah, well, of course the mother's going to worry about that.
But how often does that happen? How often do kids walk home from school and are at risk of getting fired upon by police?
It's a very low chance. I know that. It's like one in whatever, thousands or hundreds of millions or whatever the fuck it is.
Like honestly, if a kid has done something for a police officer to have to murder or fire upon them, what could they possibly do?
But at the same time, with what's like you said yourself, the protests happening and the police are being super aggressive at this point in time.
Yeah.
I can understand this. I'm just trying to sort of see it from the perspective of people that are genuinely worried for their children's safety, because I understand what it's like to be worried for someone, and in my opinion, what he's saying is that obviously the chances of their kids getting shot by a cop on the way home from school is extraordinarily low, almost to the point where it could be just considered zero. Like, there's no chance of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But with everything that's going on, with what has been exposed in the media, the actions of police during the riots and all that sort of stuff is tainting the name of good police officers out there that are doing the best they can for their communities.
Yeah.
And while I'm saying this, I'm not saying that all cops are bad, because they're not. Obviously, it's the extreme minority that are doing these heinous things because they're in a position of power or because whatever.
Yeah.
The people that are doing that are definitely the minority, and that's not in question. I'm not questioning statistics or anything like that. I'm just saying that the threat, or the perception of the threat, I should say, is there.
Yeah.
And that's what is concerning people. It's not
So
the police officers.
The police are actually hunting down these kids. You know what I mean? It's not happening like that.
Police aren't going around looking for people to shoot. That's not what's happening.
No.
There's obviously lots of different extenuating circumstances that go into what happens at a police shooting or what happens at an incident like George Floyd's, obviously we know more about what happened there than we do about most other interactions because that's been more publicized.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things now, with technology and phones and having a camera on you at all times, it makes things easily distributed. You're able to see misconduct all spread through the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's hard to run away from that kind of thing.
Exactly, and to the credit of this gentleman that was in the press conference.
Yeah.
He's very impassioned and he's obviously very upset.
Yeah.
That
I can tell that
the police name is being dragged through the mud by legislators, politicians, the media,
which is
the general
true.
public.
That is what's happening.
That is exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And things are going to change drastically, I think, very soon for the police organization as a whole.
Yeah.
Whether that means somebody loses their job over it or not, I don't know. We're yet to see what those changes are.
Yeah.
But I think it is going to be a change. It's going to be a drastic change. And I think it's going to split people. People are either going to love it or they're going to hate it.
Change can be good.
Change is inevitable.
I feel like in terms of disbanding the police, I feel like they might regret that.
They'll definitely regret it.
Once your protection is gone, then
Yeah.
what? Like, you then have to protect yourself. So then what is that? People buying more guns, or is that having more home invasions ending up with people getting killed?
Yeah, it's a hard decision to make. Like I said, I think something is going to change.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be as drastic as disbanding the police entirely. I think they're going to use the framework of the police as it stands right now.
Yeah.
Take away all the room for interpretation or room for error, because in some jobs you cannot have room for error.
Yeah.
Like, as a heart surgeon, you can't go, oh well, I tried my best.
Yeah.
It's
either
it's
you do
somebody's
your
life
job
in your
and
hands.
succeed, or you fail and they die.
Yeah, exactly. There's somebody's life in your hands.
Yeah. And even then, like, not saying that, every patient that dies is directly caused to the surgeon's fault, you know what I mean?
No,
Human error does happen, but
that was me just drawing a comparison from the top of my head.
Of course,
so
yeah.
I'm not saying, obviously, that every surgeon that fails at saving somebody's life is a bad surgeon, because they're not. Normally, they're
just not as good as they could be.
Surgeons. They're just not as good as me.
I could do better.
I could do better. But you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Like, for some jobs, there is no room for error, and you can't have any interpretation for there to be room for error.
Yeah.
So, like, saying not all cops are bad, it's the minority, that's cool, but it shouldn't be happening in the first place. There shouldn't be a minority,
you know what I mean?
It shouldn't be a minority in an organization run by the government that is there to protect people.
Yeah.
It's the whole point of the police is to protect and serve, like I said last week.
Exactly.
And by them not doing their job, it should just be right. You're out of the force.
Yeah,
you're
I
not doing
agree.
your job.
Like, if you're a cop and you fuck up hard, like if you have caused somebody so much pain in the sense of either, you have fined them for something that they didn't do and now they've gone to prison for these charges, and then it's proven that, the evidence wasn't sufficient or whatever,
Yeah,
either
like years
you go
down the track.
Either you go to prison because you forced this person to go to prison,
Yeah.
or you quit your job and you get fined for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there should
exactly.
be more penalties for these kinds of things in the police force.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be one of the changes that is going to happen. Like, obviously, the punishment for misconduct is going to, I think, or I hope, is going to go up severely.
I hope so.
To have zero tolerance to this kind of crap, because, like, the police killing people in custody is not an unknown thing. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Hispanic, Latina, Asian, fucking Russian, who cares?
Yeah.
It happens. It happens to everybody. It just so happens that for the African Americans, it's more publicized because they've been under oppression
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the word oppression because that's the closest thing that I can sort of get to how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
while we do elevate and support African American people that are doing good things in like basketball or music or acting or any of those sort of mainstream media things, we elevate people like Kanye West, like
fucking Terry Crews.
Terry Crews is amazing.
He's
I love him.
one of my favorite people in the world.
At the same time, though, a lot of discrimination is happening in the poorer parts of the country. So in the ghettos, in neighborhoods like 8 Mile in Detroit, there's a lot of racial inequality still there.
Yeah, but a lot of that is also there are a lot of gangs in there as well.
There are.
You know, like you've got like the Crips and the Bloods, and you know they're not all just one typical race. You know what I mean? But the majority of people in Detroit are African American. It is a low-income area. You know, the state itself. You know, there are states in America where you don't even have like water. You know, fresh running water. You know, there are some states that are seriously suffering in towns, and the government is just fucking lost all funding for it. They just don't care. You know what I mean?
And that's where it comes to being, I think, the government's fault.
Yeah.
For neglecting that part of their country. You know, like I could draw a comparison to in Australia, we neglect our Aboriginal neighbourhoods because there's a lot of crime going on in there. There's obviously no one in the Aboriginal community that is in government talking about these.
That's the thing.
These people that
there's
are
not
in
enough
need.
Aboriginal people in Parliament or government.
And that's what I think is a problem in America as well. There's not enough African Americans in Parliament. There's not enough.
Well, I mean, the last freaking president was African American.
I know, but he was one of maybe like 5 members of staff in the White House at the time that was African American or of different color than white.
I feel like there should be more variance of race in Parliament. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that are in Parliament that shouldn't be in Parliament. I don't think religion should be in Parliament.
100%
like
no.
120%.
Definitely not.
Religion should not face anywhere near Parliament.
It should be off in your own time, when you're doing your own thing, and you come to work, you think rationally.
Yeah, you can't just start, running a country over your own beliefs, because you're not running your country, you're running the people's country.
Yeah.
It's not your country.
It's not your country. Well, it is your country, but it's also everybody else's country.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like, it's not up to you to be like, okay, well, this is my belief, this is my faith, okay.
Yeah, this is
so
why I'm going to
run
it
the way I want to.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen like that.
It's like the whole thing that happened with like gay marriage. You know what I mean? There was great support for it, and eventually they took it to a vote from the people, and the people voted, whether they wanted it or not, and obviously it was passed, which is great. But the main thing that was holding it back was religion.
Yeah.
Because marriage is a Christian thing, like a wedding ceremony is very Christian, it's very religious. Yeah. Whereas before, to what I believe, it started off by they wanted equal rights because, so same-sex marriage at the time was a civil union. So you could get a civil union, and
it wasn't the same
that
as
means
a
that
marriage.
you didn't have the same rights as marriage. So you couldn't say pull the plug on your partner who was, in intensive care or whatever.
Yeah.
You basically had no right over the other person in any way. You had no say in what happened if they couldn't say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I was to get married to, at the same time, if I was to get married to a woman, or, of the opposite sex, we would have those rights. We'd be able to make calls on each other. Whereas
whereas
in a civil union
marriages
you couldn't.
wouldn't have been able to do that.
In a civil union you couldn't. But now that they can get married, they get the same rights.
Yeah, and that was what it was about, more so than them just being able to get married.
Yeah, like the marriage, like it's just a ceremony. You can have a civil union ceremony. It's the same thing, but it's the marriage itself. It's the certificate.
It's what it says on paper.
It's the paper. Yeah, the document that you sign. It's different.
Yeah, and that was something that obviously needed to change because those ideals were outdated and
very outdated. But yeah, so like that's one of extreme examples why religion shouldn't be anywhere near Parliament.
Yeah,
You know, you should,
exactly.
and then when they took it to the people voted for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
because the majority of a population in most Western countries is secular. They don't really particularly believe in any god. They just enjoy life as it comes.
I also believe that people in Parliament shouldn't be over the age of 60.
Yeah, that's probably
There
a
should
good
be
idea.
an age cap because to a point, these people in Parliament have no idea what it's like for the youth these days. You know what I mean?
Because
These
they've
people
been in Parliament.
They've been in Parliament for 20, 40 years, and they've been raking it in. They live the high life, and they just don't care. They have the old ideologies that are just outdated.
There's no room for flexible thinking.
Yeah.
So they get stuck in what they think is right, and they don't want to hear any other input as
it's
to.
A lot of these, aged politicians believe that climate change isn't real just because of their, adept inability to listen to younger people to tell them what is and what isn't happening.
Yeah, it's
just hierarchy, privilege. Well,
it gets to a point where they're like, I have always been right for however long I've been in Parliament. I've got to this point, so therefore I must always be right, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
Yeah, or it's taking me this long to get to where I am now. I'm going to stay here as long as I can, and I don't really care what really happens because I'm getting this much, I'm doing this, and I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, and that's when I think greed comes into it as well.
A lot of greed, yeah. Politicians shouldn't be paid as much as they are.
No, they
honestly,
shouldn't be.
Think about it. What do they really do? They sit around and they talk about legislation and then maybe do something about it.
I mean, I can always go on and quote, I think it's 2019, Scott Morrison sat in Parliament for a total of 40-something days, and he got paid $750,000. He's the highest paid politician in the first world.
Well, that's the thing. As soon as a new person in Parliament, as soon as a new Prime Minister comes in, the first thing they do is up their own pay. Fucking...
Well, that's the first thing Scott Morrison did, at least.
Dead set, they all do it. Julia Gillard did it. I don't think Kevin Rudd did it.
Kevin Rudd didn't do it, and I don't think Obama did it either.
No.
I know Donald Trump hasn't done it, despite his attempts to.
It's just insane, honestly.
I mean, greed shouldn't factor in when you're running a country, because
to be fair, the Prime Minister should have been the first person to take a pay cut.
Yes, exactly.
But he's refused it. He said he's not going to do it. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense. Everyone else is suffering.
It makes sense.
This dude,
it makes sense because he's greedy.
He's greedy and he's a fucking criminal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We can go on all
I don't want to go on
about how Scott Morrison's a criminal, but
Jesus Christ.
I think that just about wraps us up for today. Unless there's something else that you wanted to add, Mike.
No, I think we've covered all we want to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean it's been a crazy week, and we've probably got another couple of crazy weeks.
What we should talk about before we go is how in all these protests in Australia that we are seeing our Aboriginal communities step up and talk about their involvement, and it's shedding more light to how many Aboriginal people are being
mistreated.
There have been a lot of deaths of Aboriginal people in police custody, which is now being the light has been shed on, which is appalling to see. I mean, statistically, if you look at it, there are a lot of white people that die in police custody too.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, we get it too. You know what I mean? It's just
statistically,
it's either way.
Australia, America, the UK, and Western countries like that, the majority of the population is white.
Yes.
So therefore, the majority of people that are going to get killed by police is going to be white people. But the main concern is that the minority population of people, whether it be Aborigine, whether it be African American, whether it be Asian, whether it be
Latino,
whatever, if you're fucking blue, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're also going to get a proportionate amount of those people being killed. And it's never a good thing.
No.
No matter what color, Rage.
No matter how rage you are,
No matter what.
doesn't matter.
No matter what rage you are, no matter what race you are, what age you are, where you come from, whatever, you should not be treated like that.
People shouldn't be dying in police custody.
No.
It's just, unless obviously they've taken some outrageous amount of meth and they die in custody due to overdose.
And there was no way the police could have called an ambulance. Yeah. You know, there's obviously there's extenuating circumstances. Yes. Probably a good chunk of those deaths in police custody were not as a direct result of the police being police assaulting that person or being too rough with them. I think the majority of them is just accidental deaths where somebody's just like fallen over and it's just been negligence on whoever's part.
Yeah.
You know, but like you said, it shouldn't be happening in the first place. Like we should be trying to minimize it as much as possible. And especially for the Aborigine community in Australia, there's been a long time since they've stood up and sort of said, no, this is wrong, because a lot of the time they just get ignored.
Yeah, that's the thing. In Australia, the Aboriginal community, I feel like a lot of Australians do forget. Like, I don't know, it's that thing that, you know, people forget that, you know, they were the first, you know, the people in Australia, they were the first.
I mean, the first by several thousand years.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and people do they don't take into account that, you know, we did come from settlers, the white community, the Caucasian, most
European
Caucasians,
community.
You know, that they came here, you know, they did come from like Ireland and all that, you know, there were convicts and all that. But it's just sad to see that, you know, the forgotten, that that's just what it is. Like they did for a while just become forgotten, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, as heartbreaking as that is to acknowledge that Australia just forgot about Aborigines for a while there.
But it's you know, now that you do see a lot in a lot of professional what's the word, like in a lot of like corporate events and all that kind of stuff. You know, you see a lot of they say that, you know, they pay respects to the land and to the elders of the land and all that, and that's great, you know, because all these different areas, all different tribes, you know, it's kind of like in North America.
They all have
the
their
Native
different
Americans,
dialects.
you know, they all had different tribes all around the place, different names, and they all spoke different languages. You know, it's the same. It's the same here. You know, all the different Aboriginal communities. You know, on the hinterland and the Sunshine Coast. You know, there are lots of different communities all around there, which is great. You know, it's great to see that, you know, we do pay respects to them now. You know, especially when we're doing corporate things and professional, you know, business. You know, we still pay respects to the original owners of the land.
Yeah, and that, as much as that is a good thing, in my opinion as well, I think it's more symbolic than anything else. And a symbol isn't going to keep you warm at night.
Yeah.
It's not going to feed your
That's
family.
True.
It's not going to give you water.
But at the same time, you can go out and get a job and feed your family.
This is true. This is true. I'm not saying it's entirely our fault.
No. It's the fact that we've forced upon our society to them. Yes. And now they are forced to live in our society.
They're forced to adapt to our society.
They have to adapt to us.
Where it's been for like at least 40,000 years that Aborigines have lived on this continent and have been a nomadic people.
Yeah.
When European settlers came here with the convicts, they built up permanent camps and sort of stayed in one place for a long time, and that's what we've sort of forced upon. Well, yeah, somewhat forced upon the Aborigine community at large, is to don't move around, stay in the one place, and you'll be fine.
They can go wherever they want, but the thing is that I feel like they feel like staying together, keeping their rituals, keeping their, you know, heritage is like, it's so important. Like thinking about yourself and myself, you know, my cultural heritage, if I think about my Australian cultural heritage, is nothing. My heritage, in a sense, goes back to what? Ireland being a convict. Okay, cool. Whereas these people have had ancestors that have lived in the same places, doing the same things, learning from each other for the last thousands and thousands of years. You know what I mean?
That and most of Aborigine stories and history is told orally. I don't think there's any sort of written language. I know they do
like paintings.
They do paintings and they
tell stories through paintings.
Yeah, but like I said, most of it's oral because
verbal,
they're telling the story.
Yeah.
And they're explaining what the painting is about and all that sort of stuff. And that can hinder a population, I feel, more than help it.
Through passing of knowledge.
The passing of knowledge is always a good thing.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, even if it's ancient fucking knowledge, it's still good.
Yeah.
Because if you don't learn from your past, you're doomed to repeat history.
But that's like the thing with their elders are like their libraries. Their elders are the ones with all the knowledge. Now with, I guess, if you think about modern society and modern technology, they're able to keep their knowledge written, and it's easier for them. But back then it was if your elders died, then that's like years and years of knowledge gone.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to recover from that kind of thing.
Yeah, and for the most part, I guess it's down to their willingness to change as well.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, we can offer all the technological and sociological and all these sort of advancements and new things that we've learnt, but it comes down to people's willingness to adopt those things and to be willing to change. And a lot of the time, I'm seeing that people aren't willing to change.
Yeah.
So
it comes down to also how we've changed for the Aboriginal community to a degree. We have changed a lot of legislation in the sense of paying respects. Kevin Rudd did the whole speech of saying sorry to the stolen generation. All that kind of stuff. What more can we do? Like, realistically, as a whole of, like, say, the Caucasian side of the Australian population, what more can we do? Do you, like, what do they want us to do? I'm all for acknowledgement. I'm all for participating. I would love to, go to an Aboriginal community and learn about their heritage.
Hell yeah.
But they're very, I find that a lot of them can be very secretive of it, because, of course, it's they want to protect it. Like, I understand that 120%, but there's only so much that they're willing to give to us in return for us to give to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The exchange is too much. I feel like for some people anyway that I don't know what they're asking. They want more land back. Maybe I don't know what it is that they're after.
For the most
part, in
part,
a sense, like, I'm not trying to be
I get where you're coming from
or anything. I just, from my point of view, I'm just not sure how
You're
we
still
can
trying to
benefit the
understand.
community more. Like, I want to benefit their communities more, but I just don't know how or what is going to make it.
From what I've seen on, and this is all stuff that's just recent and coming to light because of all these protests. From what I've seen and from what I've heard, they want to be heard.
Yes.
They want people that have their interests close to them.
Yeah.
That are going to be making decisions in Parliament or wherever that be, whether it be local or whether it be federal. They want someone that's going to be in their corner, backing them up and going, no, these people need this. They need more education. They need more healthcare.
Agree. I think there should be more, elders and more Aboriginal people in Parliament. If there were, do you think that the government would have sold out the Murray-Darling River?
No, they wouldn't have.
Do you think that there would be cotton farmers stealing water from farmers? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely not. And
I highly doubt that kind of
Rio Tinto wouldn't have had their opportunity to blow that 40,000-year-old Aborigine site to Kingdom Come. That wouldn't have happened. And I think a lot of stuff that has happened, environmentally speaking, as well as less so sociologically speaking, like there's probably not a lot that they would change about how we interact socially. For for the most part, from what I can gather.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff, environmentally speaking, I think there would be drastic changes to how...
Environmentally, yes. I agree. There should be drastic changes environmentally.
And, hindsight being 2020, like, oh, we could have changed this, we could have changed that. Like, that's all well and good, but now we've got to look for what we can do to prevent that sort of thing happening again, and also to repair the damage that our previous actions have caused. Because not only environmentally speaking now, is also historically the European settlers that came to Australia were extremely brutal to the Aborigine population.
Oh, yeah.
Like, extremely brutal.
Very, very brutal.
And, like, that's not taking away from any other peoples that have been enslaved or have been caught in such an atrocity as this.
Yeah.
But like you said, the stolen generation, it was literally one whole generation.
A whole generation was stolen.
Of children were just taken from their families to be raised in white houses.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing is wrong now that we know what kind of damage it did.
I mean, it was wrong then.
It was wrong then, and it's still wrong now.
Yeah, to the point of view of the settlers, it wasn't wrong.
No,
it was like their way
they were quote unquote savages.
Yeah.
When they really weren't.
No.
You just needed to fucking open your mind, dickhead.
Yeah. But also, like, communication, back then, how do you communicate?
Yeah, exactly. How do you communicate with somebody that doesn't speak your language?
Yeah, exactly. And back then, there wasn't much, these people, we don't know what they're talking about. Well, let's try and understand them. It was more like, hey, they're saying weird shit in a weird
They must
way.
be savages.
There's something wrong with these people.
Yeah.
We're going to...
It was ignorance on our behalf back then, and it's probably due to ignorance on our behalf right now that's causing Aborigine communities to not be as prosperous as the rest of the country.
Well, there are a lot of Aboriginal communities that have, like, they're dry states, dry towns, so they don't have alcohol, they have curfews and all that, because, there's a stereotype in Australia that, Aboriginals drink a lot, and...
Or they're more likely to be caught with drugs, or they're more likely to do illegal shit.
And, I mean, like, with my experiences, in a town near where I grew up, there was an Aboriginal family there, and they were leaders of, a lot of violence in that town, And I know a lot of my friends, they know the group that I'm talking about. But that doesn't mean that they're all the same, you know what I mean?
No.
It's got nothing to do with that. It's just a select group of people, and literally they are a family. So, it's raising your kids in
that
horrible condition and, teaching them what's wrong.
Yeah, I mean? and I think a lot can be said about how parents raise their kids, because that's obviously a major influence on most people's lives.
Yeah.
How their parents raise them is how they grow up to be.
Yeah, in America, I've seen that African families are raising their kids to fear the police, and like they teach their kids, like these 8-year-old kids, that if a police officer ever comes up to you, to always show your hands, you know what I mean, be respectful, blah 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 blah, because you never know what will happen. I never had a talk like that with my mum. My mum was never like, if the police come, be careful, they might kill you, you know what I mean? It was like, obviously I've got to respect the police because of course they've got a gun, I don't have anything.
And for the most part, they're an authority figure.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a kid, like how many people were going, I want to be a policeman when I grow up.
Yeah.
It's an aspiration. It's a position of aspiration. It's a place of authority, and that's where some kids get their first exposure to the police, is like through school programs where they come in and they talk about their jobs and what they do, or when you're pulled over for the first time as like a 17-year-old P-plater and you're doing like 10 Ks over the speed limit or whatever. There's a lot of the time it's semi-positive interactions that we had, at least with
to be
growing
fair,
up.
I've had, I guess, in the sense of positive interactions, I know people who are police, and they're nice guys, obviously. You know, other than that, like I don't remember meeting police at school or anything like that. Like I've had interactions with police, you know, where other people that I know have been, you know, apprehended and thrown into paddy wagons and all that. You know, I've been put into the back of a paddy wagon, and you know, honestly, it scared the shit out of me. I was terrified. You know what I mean? And my offense at the time, you know, unknowing to me, was nothing. You know, I couldn't really be charged for it. But for some reason, I was still put in the back of a paddy wagon and taken to the police station anyway. And you know, I was worried. Also, I was very drunk at the time, so I was very, very, very worried.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've really had positive interactions with the police to a point where like something's happened and you know everyone got off scot-free. It's all good because I'm white. You know, I've been booked. I don't think I've ever been let off by committing a crime. Like I've knowingly committed a crime, and I've not been let off. You know what I mean?
I've been let off a couple of times for speeding, but that's. I mean, that can be called white privilege, or you can call that whatever the fuck you want. But at the end of the day, that's down to the officer.
It's the officer's
It's
judgment,
the officer's discretion.
I mean, like, if I get pulled over by, you know, a black officer and he doesn't let me go, is that racist? Is he being racist because I'm white?
Yeah, it's hard to sort of gauge whether something's racist or not.
You can't just call racism on, you know, just because one guy from one ethnicity has charged another person from a different ethnicity. You know, and that was like one things with George Floyd that really had me was that, you know, it was considered racism straight off the bat.
Yeah, straight away without any other proof.
Like murder, yes, definitely, 120% murder. But you couldn't just call racist straight up.
No, you can't call racism unless you find that to be true, and you can't find that to be true because, like, as always, you can fucking lie about it.
Unless there's obviously some kind of paraphernalia of, you know, racist cults, you know, whether it be KKK,
exactly.
whether it be Nazism, whether it be MS-13 or whatever. I don't know. That's just a gang. I don't know
whoever the fuck it is. You know, it's hard to draw a conclusion just from the face value of it, and you probably shouldn't draw a conclusion like that on face value because more often than not, it can make you look like a bit of an ass when it's proven wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that does it for today's episode.
Yeah, that was an intense episode.
It's pretty heavy. Thank you for sticking with us through it.
Yes.
Follow us on Facebook, everybody. Go there, share the link around. That's what we need. We need you guys to share it. We need you to like it. We're starting to build our community, and it's starting to get really good. We're starting to get a lot of interest, which is great.
Yes, it's always exciting seeing new people come in and listen to your stuff and enjoy it.
Yes, especially on Podbean, guys. Starting to get a great following on Podbean, so like us there, share it. You know, get your friends, get your mum to share it on her crochet Facebook page. That would be great.
Her knitting Facebook page.
Yes, get all the elderly onto it. Yeah, you know, they're at home now. They're sitting down, wondering, you know, can I go out for tea today? No, COVID's still around. What am I going to do?
Listen to subject.
Listen to subject. Exactly.
We're also on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Yes.
We're posting stuff weekly on Instagram. Going to be doing some more stuff over there in the coming weeks, but stay tuned for that. YouTube is still going on. That's weekly things. We're just posting these episodes up on YouTube.
Yep.
Subscribe to us there. Subscribe to us on Podbean.
And we will catch you all next week.